Like there's nothing there except for a hole in the ground.
Basically, that's right. The only thing you could see from where we were was a big gouge in the earth and some broken trees.
Any large pieces of debris at all?
No, there was nothing that you could distinguish that a plane had crashed there.
How big would you say that hole was?
From my estimates, I would guess it was probably about 20 to 15 feet long and probably about 10 feet long or 10 feet wide.
What could you see on the ground, if anything, other than dirt and ash? And
you couldn't see anything. You could just see dirt, ash, and people walking around, broken trees.
Nothing was there. No wreckage, no fire.
Little pieces of metal. There wasn't anything there but little pieces of metal.
No piece of wreckage was larger than a telephone book. No identifiable bodies were found.
How little debris is visible. That's really all you see is a large crater in the ground and just tiny, tiny bits of debris. There has been at least one report that the investigators out there, and there are hundreds of them, as I said tonight, have found nothing larger than a phone book.
Debris from that crash has been located miles and miles away from the crash scene.
The FBI and the state police here have confirmed that they have cordoned off a second area about 6 to 8 miles away from the crater here where this plane went down. This is apparently another debris site, which raises a number of questions. Why would debris from the plane, and they identified it specifically as being from this plane, why would debris be located 6 miles away? Could it have blown that far away? Seems highly unlikely. And then all of a sudden they're telling us 6 miles away they have another concentration of debris. They say it's very small pieces. Most of these are very small pieces. Most of the pieces here are no bigger than the size of a briefcase, they say, and the pieces 6 miles away maybe even smaller than that.
So you can say this is not typical for a plane crash to be spread across an area this large.
It certainly doesn't make sense.
Today, investigators found debris from the crash in a neighborhood about 8 miles away from the area where the plane went down. They say the debris was scattered by the wind.
And then about 6 miles away up by a lake, there is another area that's been cordoned off, and state police and the FBI have said definitely there is debris from the plane located there.
All that you really see there is a huge crater. You can't even see it very well from our vantage point. A huge black gaping hole, as investigators are describing it. There is a lot of debris, most of it very small pieces of black charred.
There you see the crater, and there you can see, Peggy, just the tiniest bits of white debris, and there's really nothing left of that plane.
Witnesses have said that they saw the plane actually flying upside down with the tail down, and that it plunged into the earth at least a 60-degree angle, possibly straight down, which would account for the small crater, about 20 feet around and at least 10 or 20 feet deep. The bulk of the remains of that plane and all the 45 people who are on board may be buried deep in that crater just in the field beyond these trees here.
From what I saw at the initial impact were very small pieces that you would not recognize as being part of the plane.
What evidence is in the crater? So to the naked eye, there's not a whole lot there now.
People. You know, I get up there and I look around, John, and it was like, I mean, it's like, where's the plane? You know, I mean, there was just pieces, just small pieces you could pick up and put in your palm of your hand, just scattered everywhere.
You know, I wondered to myself, where is it? You know, the plane was just totally disintegrated.
Nothing to indicate that there was even anybody on the plane. It looked like someone had gouged about a 10-foot wide, 10-foot deep trough through the strip mine area. But when you looked in, it was just covered with dirt. There was nothing there that you could really say was an airplane.
Investigators at the scene of the plane crash in Pennsylvania recovered the plane's flight recorder this afternoon. The FBI says the flight recorder has been sent to the National Transportation Safety Board.
Within 45 seconds or a minute of impact, we were there. We were there before any firemen, any paramedics, or anybody. We were on site. When we got there, there was a plane flying up above. And he was smart. He flew straight for the sun. So you couldn't look at it and see exactly what type of plane or if it was a fighter or what it was. But, you know, we caught a glimpse of it, and as he was swinging, he was basically traveling in the same direction as the plane.
When I got up here almost to the stop sign, this small white plane, at the time, that's what I thought it was, went over top of me. It was so smooth, and it just glided right over me, just like that. And then I ducked, and when I looked up again, then it was the spoiler, which is what I call it, and it was tipped like this so I could really see the spoiler, and then it just banked to the right and went over and went down behind those trees. We got to watching it on TV, and they kept saying that it was a large plane, like a 757. And I was like, no. What I saw was no jet. You know, that would have blown me off the road if it went over me, you know, that close. I said, that wasn't it. So, like I said, about 11:30 that night, the FBI came, wanted to talk to me. They kept asking me how big the plane was. I said the plane, you know, it was small, wasn't much bigger than my van that I saw, and that it went over top of me. And he says, you don't know what a 757 looks like. And I said, you know, don't be condescending to me. You know, if you don't want to believe me, that's fine. But what I saw, I thought I should report. And you ought to know there was something else in the air at the same time this was going on. And you want to make sure maybe it was ours and not somebody else's. And then that's when he did seem to get a little nicer. Told me that it was a white Learjet. Someone was taking pictures. I said, before the crash? And he says, well, we got to go. And that was the end of it. It was no wider than my van. It was pure white. There was not any markings on it. There was no rivets. I mean, it was that close that I could have seen it. It was so molded, it looked like it was all one piece. I'm coming up here, almost to the stop sign, and this, I keep calling it a plane for lack of any other, it came down. I mean, it was like right above my van, and right down over my windshield, because it was so low that I ducked in my van. And it came right over top of me, and I thought it was going to hit the van, because I juked, because I saw it. And so I stopped, and it pulled down a little bit, and then there's trees right there in front of me, and it went right up over the trees, and went over real close to the trees, because I just had to think, this is going to crash, I'm going to see this plane crash, and all of a sudden there was the big explosion.
The reason why it's so hard for investigators to find out what happened here is because there's practically nothing left of the aircraft. That crater you see behind me, where all of those workers are, is the point of impact where the plane fell from the sky, and that is all that is left.
That is where United Flight 93 crashed into the earth and nearly vaporized.
Let us never tolerate outrageous conspiracy theories concerning the attacks of September the 11th.